All right. Jay Cutler has joined us. Uncut with Jay Cutler is the name of the podcast. And also, you can check out his monthly meat subscription service, Cuts. We'll talk about that because I've been watching you. Well, I've been seeing you on TMZ and seeing your chickens being attacked by raccoons and that whole world. So welcome to the show. Yeah. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I didn't know you had this much personality when you were in the league. Don't take offense to that, but it seems like you got out and you really sort of got into your own.
Well, I mean, I think whenever you have a big time employer like the NFL, and I was with the Bears for a long time, I mean, you just kind of have to toe the line a little bit. I think the culture back then was a lot different. I think now where we're at society wise, everyone's kind of taking more ownership with social media and everyone's got a little bit more of a voice. Back whenever I was playing, I think that, you're a little bit under the thumb of the organization, which was fine. I mean, that worked for me too.
You played 12 seasons. You racked up over 3,000 completions, 35,000 passing yards, 227 touchdowns. You were a standout in high school. I think your team won the state, or at least one undefeated. You played quarterback and DB, 9 interceptions, I'm reading here. I played both ways in high school. I didn't play quarterback, but I always liked playing defense. I always thought defense was a lot funner than offense. But you were quarterback, so how did you feel?
I loved defense, and I got recruited to play defensive back. My freshman year at Vandy, I was redshirting, and the coach asked me if I wanted to play safety. But at that point, like, my mind was made up on playing quarterback. But I loved defense. I loved the freedom of it, and I didn't mind hitting people either. So like that it worked. It worked well for me in high school.
Did you ever throw a pick just so you could be a free safety again? Like, let's say you guys were up by 4 touchdowns. There was 2 minutes left in the game. Yeah. You ever just throw up a wounded duck just so you could play a little center field defensively?
No, I never did that. But I always was like, all right, if one was thrown, which I threw them, I was always like, all right, it switched real quick. I was like, all right, we can tackle this guy. Let's get him. Because, I mean, most of the time, those defensive guys, they don't really know. I mean, they don't know how to run, but they don't know how to carry the ball. They don't really know what they're doing. Like, they're just so ecstatic that they got the ball that they're just, like chickens with their heads cut off, running around.
When I was in high school, I was playing offensive guard, and the way I ended up playing linebacker too the next year is our quarterback threw a pick, and playing guard is so goddamn boring. And I always played defense in Pop Warner. So when he threw the pick, I was like, okay, good. And he threw the pick, and I just hustled down and stuck the guy. And when we were doing the film session, the coach was like, Whitman, you threw the pick. Oh, Carolla, nice hit. And then he was like, maybe you should be playing a little defense. And
that's how you got over it. Offensive line is boring.
I mean, my God.
You're literally just banging heads every single play.
There was
over and over again.
Zero satisfaction, lots of mini concussions, and little pay. And certainly you don't get laid. Now, are you, the philosophical question,
Sure.
Are you satisfied with your NFL career?
Great question. I think I would say yes and no. I would say, I think there's probably still stuff left in the tank, but I think that's most players. I think there's very few players that get to the end and say, hey, you know what? I did all I could do. I mean, they're definitely out there, but most careers are cut short for reasons that, you can't control. Either you got hurt or you weren't good enough, or the team just said, hey, we'll find somebody else that's cheaper. At the end of mine, I felt like I was done. I didn't want to go to another team. I didn't want to start over with coaches and players and forming those relationships. Looking back on it now, did I have more left in the tank? Absolutely. So it's a little bit, I kind of ride that teeter-totter. But I can't change it. I'm happy that I'm out now. I'm not sure that I could deal with where the league is right now. I think I would have some problems with some of the things that are happening. But 12 years is a long time. So had a good run.
What problems do you think you would have in today's NFL?
Just with some of the mandates and how they're working with COVID and, putting players, it's kind of, I feel like it's very unfair for their players at this point.
Yeah, so we famously, there was the whole kerfuffle with Sage Steele, and she got suspended. She was on your show, and I think it was very end of September.
Yeah.
We're now going on about 3 weeks since that went down.
Yeah.
I don't know what her status is with ESPN now. Have you been following that?
I was just on ESPN because I don't go on it much. I was just on ESPN.com, and I saw that they had a little feature on her, and she was doing an interview with somebody. So I'm guessing she's back on as soon as it happened. Because we talked before the podcast, and I was like, are you cool? Like, what do you want me to steer clear from? She's like, no problem, no big deal. When she had the Band-Aid on, I was like, I cannot ask. I'm perfectly fine with that. And she was like, no, ask away. So, and then I texted her when everything went down, and I was like, hey, I didn't mean to cause a problem. I didn't think that this would happen. And I apologized. And she was like, no big deal. She said, I'll handle it. I'm good. She goes, I could have avoided those questions, and I didn't. So, she owned it, which, I guess is all you can ask for.
I worry that this climate just leads more and more to less people talking. And certainly those kinds of, pre-interviews where you go, hey, do you want me to stay away from this subject or that subject? And the person goes, yeah, stay away from this subject and that subject. Or their publicist sends over a laundry list of subjects you can't bring up.
Yeah.
The people that suffer is the audience, essentially,
Absolutely.
who would like to hear someone's actual opinion about something. Other than is Ray Lewis a top 5 all-time inside linebacker? No one. That's fine, but we'd like to go a little more in depth than that. And all it's going to do is stifle people, and most people will sort of realize that there's really no upside to me doing this podcast, but there's a potential big downside financially and beyond. And it really, all these assholes that never stop talking about an open dialogue and an honest dialogue, and we have to keep the dialogue going, and we need a seat at the table for people to have diverse opinions. They're all full of fucking shit. They're all full of shit, and they're liars. When they say open dialogue, they mean their approved dialogue, not an open dialogue. What you guys had was an open dialogue that they didn't vet, and then cowards like ESPN have to release these drops that are like, they've released these form letters are like, we here at ESPN try to cultivate a culture of open dialogue and expansive opinions. Bull fucking shit, you liars. You don't cultivate shit. You cultivate your own. By the way, we see by your actions.
Yeah.
You discipline anyone who disagrees, who dares to disagree with your culture. So don't fucking give me that talk. It's totalitarian.
And at the end of the day, she wasn't disrespectful of them by any means. She handled, I feel like, she said her opinion. She said it the right way. She was open and honest. And, to your point, like the authenticity of people are pretty much gone. You have this far right side and this far left side. And I don't want to call them extremists, but like they're very extreme in their beliefs. And the whole middle ground of where I think a lot of Americans try to live and that's where the belief system is on certain political things, religious things. That whole section of people are being very quiet right now, because if you don't pick a side, one of those sides is going to get you. And it's just a shame, because, I think there's a lot of smart people out there that aren't saying anything, and they're scared because, they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose family or friends over some of these things.
Yeah. She was respectful. She just, and the other thing about it is, with these woke douchebags, is you can never do enough. Like, you go, I've been vaccinated. I've been double vaxxed. I've been triple vaxxed. I got the booster. I got my whole family vaccinated. I'm just saying I believe it should be up to the individual to decide whether, he's an anti-vaxxer. Yeah, that's your yardstick that you measure people. You're an anti-vaxxer that's been vaccinated.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And I don't understand how we got to a point where, we can't have these dialogues. We can't have our own opinion. Like, if the vaccine works and you get the vaccine, you should be good then. You shouldn't worry about anything, right?
You're putting unvaccinated people in danger. Come on, Jay.
I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, I try to use common sense with a lot of this stuff, and I don't have a platform here of saying, get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. I don't care what you do. Like, knock yourself out. Whatever you feel like your thing is, do it. It's just like we've lost common sense in this whole debate of getting it, not getting it at this point.
Yeah, well, some people, I talk to Dr. Drew about this often, which is some people, it's like you could almost take the nation and break them into two groups. Some people relish the idea of running across the street and telling someone to pull their mask up, and other people recoil at that.
Yeah.
Like if somebody someone tapped me on the shoulder, like if I was on an airport shuttle and someone had their mask around their chin and somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, go tell that guy to pull his mask up. I'd go, you go tell him to pull his mask up. I don't want to fucking do that. Like it feels like shit to me. I feel like an asshole telling anyone to pull their mask up or get vaccinated or you can't go into the Trader Joe's. I would feel like an asshole. Some people are empowered by it. They get off on it. I want those people fucking put to Devil's Island. I want them to go to French Guiana and live with Pepion on fucking Devil's Island. I don't want to. I'm tired of those people in our society, but it's titillating to some people.
Well, I think we're getting to a point like those people feel empowered because I don't think they have a lot of power in their lives. Like we've now given people this power over other people where in reality they might not have that power over anybody.
Right.
And so, that's something that's completely new. And there's some people, like you said, that they get off on that. They relish in that. They love that. They love being able to be in a situation of power, and we've made it okay. And I don't think it is okay. I mean, it's definitely not okay in my book.
Well, let's talk poultry for a minute. I know from watching TMZ religiously, you had some situations with your chickens.
I did.
I know they were missing. As a former special ops guy, you went deep cover with night vision goggles and God knows what else, because these chickens were being removed from where? Your backyard?
Backyard. Something was getting in the chicken coop. I mean, ripping heads off. I mean, there was a bloodbath there for 2 or 3 days.
And you didn't know who the culprit was or what the culprit was, right?
Put up cameras, a lot of cameras. And I mean, this thing was basically just outsmarting me at all turns.
Mm-hmm. And at some point, how many chickens do you lose in total?
We probably lost six or seven.
Now, they would mutilate the chicken or make off with the chicken?
It was kind of, they would mutilate. They just rip their heads off and leave them.
Really?
And then, the next night, if they couldn't get in, they would mess around, move that chicken around, eat a little bit and roll out. But if they could get a new one, they do the exact same thing to it.
So they were killing for sport?
Yeah, they were just sport killing.
It sounds like there's a demonic cult that lives in the woods behind your house. But this wasn't that. This was another creature.
They were raccoons. It was a family of raccoons just sport killing my chickens.
That is so bizarre to me. I
was on just chicken forums. I mean, I was all over the map, and I guess that is the calling card of raccoons. Like that's just what they do.
I'm reading it's very common.
Yeah, it's very common. I didn't know that until obviously I went down this whole rabbit hole of chicken killing.
You color me surprised as well.
Yeah. I thought maybe a bobcat, I know skunks and possums do stuff. I thought maybe an owl was getting in there. Yeah. All the night creatures, but the damn raccoons.
It says a raccoon can kill an entire flock in minutes. But now
vicious little animals.
Yeah, I'm not Steve Irwin, but I thought animals either killed to eat or killed because the whoever they were killing posed a threat to them. I didn't know there was just sort of sport killing.
Yeah, raccoons, are just assassins of the tree world.
How did you How'd you figure out it was a raccoon?
I finally got one. I had a bunch of live traps everywhere, and I finally got one in the live trap. And then I got another one, and then I got another one, and I was like, all right, we've got a family of killers running around here.
Where did now? What do you do with the chickens? Do you get the eggs? Do you eat the chickens?
Eggs. Yeah, just the eggs. But I mean, they've got a shelf life too. 3 to 5 years, they'll just stop producing eggs. Didn't know that either. So,
and then what do you do with them?
Then you can eat them.
Mm-hmm. So, and by the way, I didn't grow up on a farm. When they talk about grabbing them and just breaking their neck or doing whatever, I could never do any of that stuff. It'd freak me out.
You can kind of grab them and then just kind of like whip it. And they do it with birds and stuff like quail and stuff like that. And you can just rip it. And a lot of times the head will pop off.
Really? It'll just come off?
I mean, it just pops off.
I shouldn't be laughing, but it's.
The animal world and where your food comes and like people just don't realize like the killing that is involved in when you go to the supermarket. Like these animals didn't just show up like that. Like they were killed in certain ways, and it's not pretty, but it's just the cycle that happens.
No, I know. I'm an ugly American who chooses not to think about it. But
yeah, no one does.
I'm not as bad as there's all these hypocrites out there that are like, they're against hunting, but they eat meat and they just announce. It's kind of part and parcel of like where we are now. Like they go, I don't like hunting. And you go, well, you do eat meat, right? And they go, oh yeah, I eat meat. And then you go, where do you think that meat comes from? And they go, I know. Yeah. But I don't like hunting. And that's really kind of where we're at with COVID and society and like everything else. It's a bunch of non-thinkers making proclamations. And then they sort of expect us to go, okay, I'll stop hunting. I'll see you at the Ruth Chris tonight for a steak.
Yeah. My buddy calls it like situational ethics. Like whatever works for you in the time and you can ethically and morally be okay with it. Like that's how a lot of people are operating.
Well, where did you get your ethics? I know you grew up or were born in Santa Claus, Indiana.
Grew up in Santa Claus. I was actually born in Georgia, grew up in Indiana. I guess my dad was Indiana State Police. My mom kind of stayed at home, watched us, worked at the school a little bit. So kind of just small rural town, Indiana, really.
And when did you get the inkling you might be turning pro?
I always knew that I wanted to play some sport professionally. Wasn't sure how or where or how that would be achieved. Got to Vandy and I was like, all right, I can play with these guys. And then, sophomore, junior year, I was like, but you don't really know what that step is from college to NFL. Like these guys now in college are training 24/7. The world is so much smaller in that world. So I think you get to see different guys, you get to see your peers a little bit more. Back then, I played with my guys at Vandy and that was kind of it. So you're not for sure how you're going to stack up with some of these other guys. But by the time I was a junior or senior, I felt pretty good about it.
You went in the first round, you went to Denver. Mm-hmm. Denver would seem to be a top 10 destination to go to. I know, famously, there's a lot of guys that didn't want to go to a lot of places, a lot of organizations. Some of it is the organization. The other's the town. Denver's Absolutely. A great town to move to.
Yep.
Were you surprised that you went 11th? Did you think you'd go lower or higher? Were you excited about going to Denver and didn't want to go to Baltimore or wherever?
I was happy to go there's teams that I wanted to go to. Denver was never on the radar. They didn't work me out. They didn't talk to me. They didn't interview me. They did nothing. And they were, I think 16 or 17. They traded up to 11 to get me. And Arizona was at 10 and Matt Leinart was in my class too. And they thought he would go in the top 5 or 6 and he slipped to 10.
Yeah. USC
and so
star. Right.
Yep. So I was talking to Arizona a lot. And that morning, I was talking to the GM and he's like, if you're at 10, we're taking you. I'm like, all right, cool. Matt kept sliding. And I was like, well, Arizona has to take him just for, for public opinion and all the other things. So they took him at 10, and I was like, well, I might slip a little bit. There's no telling. And Denver traded up, and I was thrilled to go there. It was an older team. Mike Shanahan was there. Jake Plummer was the starter. So I kind of got the benefit of watching a little bit before I actually had to play.
Jake the Snake from ASU, right?
Yeah, awesome dude. I mean, I couldn't have been in a better spot. He wasn't happy that I was drafted. I mean, they were in the AFC Championship game the year before. So me coming in wasn't exactly, his career was kind of wrapping up at that point in Denver, or at least he felt so. So, but he took me under his wing. He was really cool with me.
Tell us what you learned from football, because I feel like I learned almost everything from football, and it's part of the reason why I'm disgusted at most of humanity all the time, because they're such fucking pussies. But I feel like there's so many lessons from football, and I like working with and talking to people who either were in the military or played football, because they're always the same person.
Well, I mean, I think that you get teamwork. You get, obviously you have to be able to work with people. You've got to be able to communicate. I think your communication's better. And I think there's a selflessness part of that too, of being on a team. And it's not always about you. And we look at society today and social media, and it's you. And any successful company, anyone that's really successful, I think that you have to be a selfless individual. You've got to be willing to give back. And that's what football is all about. It's everyone doing their job, everyone making sacrifices, everyone being a part of a bigger common goal. Yeah.
And it's also a constant humbling, because in a way, every incomplete pass is a little humbling, and every play that doesn't get any positive yardage is a little humbling. And then there's the fumble, and then there's the pick, and then there's the pick six. I mean, it just kind of keeps going, but it's a constant yin yang of victory and humbling that really gives your brain a workout, right?
Yeah. And you have no one to blame for a lot of these things except for yourself. So you can't blame somebody else. You can't be a victim. You've got to overcome it. So it's like you said, you're going to get used to disappointments pretty quickly, and you're going to get used to figuring out, all right, what did I do wrong? How do I work harder? How do I fix it? And you do all those things, and then, there's another disappointment, and you try to fix that, and then there's another one, and then you have something really cool that happens. So there's ups and downs, and that's life. I mean, that's how life is. You're not going to go through life and everything is going to be up, great. I mean, there's going to be some bad points in life, in everyone's life.
From your mouth to God's ears, I just wish more people a lot of kids, whole self-esteem movement. Everyone feels like they know they're special, and there's some, they have some magical gift or something. And there's nothing, we're kind of missing the benefit of like a good old fashioned ass kicking by life. And I don't mean somebody beating you up in a park. I mean, just going out and getting whooped up on a playing field, and in other sports, basketball and baseball and other sports like that, you get beat, but in football, you get beaten up. Like a lot of time when you lose, especially at a Pop Warner level, you didn't get beat because the team had a much better game plan. You got whooped, like you got beaten up. They handed the ball off. You couldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? And that feeling of really just getting beat, getting vanquished. It's really important. Everyone spends their whole life trying to avoid it. They should lean into it a little more.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that physicality to it, and there's a mental aspect. And whenever you do get beat, and I mean, I've got beat on every level, physically, mentally, the whole thing. And whenever you do get beat physically and mentally, it's draining. It's eye-opening. It's humbling. It's a situation that you don't want to feel again, and you kind of do everything under the sun to overcome that and never be in that situation again. Knowing damn well you're probably going to be in that situation again, but you're but you're probably better off for it the next time. Which, to your point, I know a lot of parents that, they just bubble wrap their kids, and they want to, build these steps for them. So they just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and they never have to overcome anything, which scares me, for my kids. And I want to make sure that, we don't just hand them everything that they're given. They've got to work for things that, you want them to fail at times, so that whenever they are 21 or 25 or 28, that's not their first time failing. They know how to fail. They know how to bounce back.
Yeah, it's really almost impossible to externalize when you're getting blown out. Like when the other team is just firing off the ball, just executing, just hitting harder, pads lower. It's just, there's no place to turn. You can only look in the mirror. And there's something really sort of bizarrely empowering about that, because you're in control. You are the captain of your own ship. Even if your ship is sinking, someone else is not sinking it for you. You are sinking it, and thus you can do something about it.
And that scares a lot of people. And I think that intimidates people and scares people, and they don't put themselves in that situation. Just in life, they put themselves in a situation where, they're going to be successful, even if they're not achieving the goals that they would want. They're scared to actually go after something, because they might get blown out. They might get destroyed, and they just don't know how to deal with that. And there's other people out there that go after everything, and they're not worried about anything, which is pretty cool too.
We need to take a quick break. We'll be back with Jay Cutler. We'll talk about agency, not free agency, just agency, right after this. Jay Cutler's our guest. Uncut with Jay Cutler is the name of the podcast, and also the monthly meat subscription service, which is just 6 of his dead chickens. Cuts, it's called, and you can go to cutsbyjayandpat.com. Yeah, agency is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Scary that I feel like the government and the powers that be are trying to remove it from everyone's life by explaining to them that everything is happening for some reason that doesn't have to do with them, which is going to just get a whole bunch of super angry citizens when you say that the deck is stacked against them and they're systemically oppressed and whatever. It's the worst thing you can do to a kid, the worst thing you can do to a teen or an adult. I understand why the government is pitching it, because they want more power, and the less agency you have, the more power they have. Why do you think it's so attractive to people?
To buy into that?
Yeah, it's sort of like it's like you just got blown out, and some coach ran out in the field and said, "It wasn't your fault. You got blown out. The playing field is leaning the direction toward the other team's end zone. There's nothing you could have done about it." There's a part of you that would go, "Oh, good. I don't have to live with this." Right?
Yeah, that's great. And I think that to your point, I think that there is a certain amount of society that wants that. There's a certain amount of society that doesn't want to take the blame. They don't really want any part of that. They don't want to feel that. But I'm not for sure if majority of the U.S. is there right now. I think that it's turning the other way, and I think that people are kind of getting tired of that rhetoric and being told that. I think that there's a lot more people out there that want to take control of their lives, want less agency. They want to live their lives the way they want to, and they're I think there's people getting sick of it.
Yeah, there definitely are. I mean, it has to happen. It's kind of a
but like every time I feel like it starts to build a little bit, like, there's something else, like they've whipped something else out there. There's a different strain. There's a booster. There's something else that's being created that creates fear that, pushes us back a little bit more.
Well, that's the plan. I mean, my feeling is they can never take their foot off the accelerator. They can never just step back. They can never just go, well, maybe I was wrong about this, or No,
because if they say they were wrong about one thing, they're opening the door to
right. So
hundreds of things.
They literally just push harder. And I always say it's called the progressive movement. It's got the word progress and movement in it. There's no signs. There's nothing in the title progressive movement that would ever suggest that it's basically bullet train. There's any part of you that says that's going to stop or reverse or anything. No, it's right in the title. It's called a progressive movement, and it's going to move and it's going to progress, and it doesn't really matter what it is. It'll start with social movements that you agree with, and it'll morph into something that's unrecognizable, and they'll hit it with the same vigor they did with the things you agree with, and they'll say it's every bit as important. And
Are you in California or New York?
Yes, I'm in California.
I mean, that's probably one of the most progressive movement states out there, and people seem to be leaving that state. I mean, I'm in Nashville, and we've got people coming from California, daily. Everyone's like, there's California plates everywhere here.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm on the email address of I get the emails from Adam Schiff and other luminaries like himself from the Democratic Party all the time. I just do it. I don't know how I got on it, but I like to read them. And I got one this morning, and it was from Adam Schiff's friend, and the friend was saying, I'm running for Congress in Florida, and we got to flip this state from red to blue. And then I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, then where am I going? Like, I remember like physically thinking there's only red states potentially you're in California. Everyone in California's got an exit strategy at this point. We're all basically, there's no Tom Brady's in this league. We're all going to we're all quarterbacks, and we're 35 and a half. You know what I mean? And we're not Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. Like, we can see the writing on the wall. We're going to hang up the cleats in the next season or two. So every human who I speak to in California is like, where are we going to go? Because we're just running this shit show into the ground, and we got to leave. So where we're going to leave is we have to leave to red states. And everyone does a thing where it's like, oh, because you're a Republican. No, because I like freedom. And because I don't want to pay 52% in taxes, and because I don't want my 2-year-old masked up for no fucking reason. So call it what it is. You can go Republican or Democrat. I'll leave that aside. I just want to go to a place where I don't have to pay overregulated, pull a fucking permit to take a shit in my entry hall bathroom, and a little freedom, a little autonomy. That's all. And so I don't want Florida to turn from red to blue, because I'll just have to cross it off the places I could potentially go.
Yeah, and that's the problem with politics right now is you want to make that move for reasons that you said, and it gets boiled back to, all right, you're either a hardcore Republican or hardcore Democrat, and I'm neither one of those. I mean, I just want the things that I want in my life, and a lot of those things are what you said. Like, I don't want to pay really high taxes. I don't want my kids to have to wear masks at school. I want to be able to do some of the things I want to be able to do. I want to be able to buy a gun. I want to be able to do these certain things, but that doesn't make me, the most Republican person in the world. I mean, there's a lot of things that I agree with on the liberal side, and especially a lot of the socialist stuff. So it's just a shame that we're in that place where, you have to be so one-sided on this.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I'm with you. I'm socially liberal, get an abortion, smoke pot, pray to whoever you want to do, marry whoever you want to marry,
whoever you want,
and whatever, which is fine. There's all that in California. But I'm not a black lesbian who hates guns. So I'm a straight white guy. So in a way, that's great. We're all down with the cause, but I'd like to go to a place because I have my own needs and issues that don't have to do with gay marriage or the trans community or, indigenous creatures that weigh less than an ounce that cannot be killed because we like an aqueduct or something. So I would just go to these other places. So it's interesting See, it's kind of interesting where people go, well, you live in California because maybe you're down with the cause, like gay rights and gay marriage and rights for indigenous people or whatever. You're down with the whole cause. All right, fine. But it doesn't mean you want to pay a shitload in taxes, and it doesn't mean you want to be regulated. It just means you're down with the cause. Yeah. I will feel the same way when I move to Nashville. It's not, I'm not doing it because I'm against gay marriage. I'm moving there because I'm not gay. I'm not getting married to a dude. So while I'm for it, it doesn't impact me. But I'd like to own a gun, and I like to pay less in taxes.
Exactly. But you can't say that. Because
I
know you did. That no one wants to hear that.
I know. That's
the problem.
It was from Val Demings, is the person I got the email from this morning, and they want me to help turn Florida blue. Which, once again, that just means all the people that are fleeing California are going to have to cross Florida off their flee zone list. Now, so for you, and I'm the same way, you get a ton of shit from all these hypocrites who essentially their rules are you have to think how we think, otherwise we can't have lunch, which is fucking retarded. So my feeling is like, fuck them. But how about you? How's this affected you in your world?
You know, I'm new to the podcast world. I'm new to the whole media side of it. You know, I was always on the other side of the media, being interviewed and stuff like that. So dipping my toes into this has been different. It's been eye-opening. And I think that you have to be, you know, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to politics or really anything. I worried about, you know, my stuff, my family. So I think you have to do your homework. You have to be educated on, you know, both sides of the fence. And it's easy for me because I can hear your side of it. I'm cool with whatever you want to say. I can listen to you. We can have a dialogue. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And if we actually have a conversation, there probably are some things that I'll agree on with you. You know, that being said, I'm not going to bend in my beliefs and where I stand on things. So if you want to destroy me on social media and send me a DM and do whatever, that's fine. I'm going to continue doing my stuff. You know, I just worry about where this is going to go for our kids, and, you know, how much longer can we keep this battle up for?
How much autonomy do you have in terms of, you know, for a lot of people, it's a business decision. You know, they're a pilot for a major airline. They're going to be suspended, or a cop in Chicago. Like, I don't fault people who are living paycheck to paycheck and told they're going to be suspended if they don't do X, Y, or Z. You know, you do have people who stand their ground, and God bless them. But I do not blame those people. I'm not in that position, so it's easy for me to speak my mind. But how about you? Are you financially in good shape from your playing days and your poultry days? I mean, do you feel like you have FU money?
I think that's relative. I will say that I'm 100% comfortable in saying what I need to say. If I get canceled, if podcast one is like, hey, we're pulling you off because of, you know, you said X, Y, and Z, you know, so be it. You know, I think now that everyone has been supportive of what I've said and what, you know, the direction I kind of want to go with this. But if anything changes in the future and they want to pull me off, then doesn't bother me at all. I could care less. Actually, I take that back. I couldn't care less, but it would bother me, but I'll be fine.
Were there any thoughts of getting into the booth? I mean, you're nice looking. You're in the league for a long time. You've got a lot of inside information, and you speak well. Getting into the booth, and if there is there still that opportunity, and what's going on in that neck of the woods?
You know, when I left Chicago, I had a deal with Fox, and then I went down to Miami for a year. And then when I got out of Miami, interviewed with about everybody, one time, and then everyone kind of came back and wanted to talk again, and I just didn't want to get in that same time cycle of being gone, because whenever you're doing booth games, you're on the road every week, so every week's a home game. Where playing football, eight are home, eight are away, so I just didn't want to be with the age of my kids. I didn't want to be gone every Friday to Monday or Tuesday for 16, 17 weeks. So, I opted out. I think I'm probably in a better place now with all the kids in school. And I did Adam Schefter's podcast a while back. And, if I think with the flux of all the networks and then putting on different people, I would love to do 6-8 games a year. I mean, I'd be totally down with that.
Could you tell when you were playing what organization? I know you know certain teams are better than other teams. Did it seem like it was all because of the organization, or did it seem like it was the coach, or did it seem like it was the players? Like, could you just tell that certain teams were better run because of the organization? And then, like, who were those teams?
Oh, without a doubt. There's certain organizations that are very, very efficient, very, very highly run, and they've got really good people at the top. The Steelers, the Patriots, I think San Fran now, Seattle, Green Bay, for the most part. This whole Aaron thing's been a little bit of a debacle. KC, there's certain organizations out there that year in, year out, they put an emphasis on high quality people. They hire really good coaches. And, that translates to them getting better people and better players. Because, free agency, you're going to want to go to these teams. There's certain teams that people just want to go to. And they just do a good job of saying, hey, we messed up on that pick. Let's get him out. Or, this guy isn't working. We got to get him out, just because for a culture standpoint. Where some of these teams, they'll hang on to somebody because, the GM drafted them first round or second round. They're like, hey, we're stuck with this guy. Instead of saying, hey, I made a mistake, get the guy out. We're better off without him. We'll find somebody else down the road. Yeah.
You kind of wonder. I mean, I don't know, maybe in a weird way, Matt Millen in Detroit for all those years, like, I'll screw it up, but it seemed like he was there for 20 years and
he was there for a while.
Didn't have a lot of winning seasons, but they just kind of stuck with him. I've always kind of thought the worst thing that can happen to your franchise is to have a quarterback that's sort of just good enough to go 500 every year. You'd much rather have the guy just flame out quick and make the change versus the guy with the potential who never lives up to it.
Well, potential will get you beat. I mean, that's the worst word you can hear is, you're always hoping for, him to do better or something to happen. But quarterback's one of those positions that you're going to have to put talented guys. And you go to Detroit, you talk about Detroit, like, Matt Stafford was an amazingly talented player there for a long time, but they just couldn't get the right guys around him. And now you look at him in LA and that team has some dudes, has a really good coach that they're figuring it out, got a good GM. And you see what happens whenever you put some dudes around that guy.
Yeah, I was speaking to my old friend who I played Pop Warner football with, although I don't know, when you were growing up, what'd they call it? Pee-wee football or something?
I think it was Pop Warner. It was Pop Warner.
Yeah, that works in some states and others. People don't know what I'm talking about. But Pop Warner was an old football coach, by the way.
Yeah,
that I looked up at some point to figure out why it was called
Pop Warner. Pop Warner.
Well, when I was 9, I'd just be like, it's called Pop Warner because your pops warned you if you get hurt. I mean, it made sense to me when I was 8. But I was talking to my old friend Eric Kramer, who played for
he played for the Bears,
your Chicago Bears for a couple good seasons back in the day. A good piece before you got there, but probably not. Maybe a decade or more. But it wasn't like you guys missed each other by a country mile. How many years of Pop Warner did you play?
So I started playing football. I started playing tackle football in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to do it? Were you pushed into it?
I wanted to do it. I was dying to do it.
Why'd you wait till the 5th grade?
It wasn't even offered.
Oh, didn't have it before that.
Didn't have it. No, like, I mean, these kids now are playing when they're 4 and 5.
Right.
Tackle, which I think is a little bit crazy. Actually, I think it's a lot crazy. But we didn't even have it at that point whenever I was growing up.
So you played as early as you could play, which was, I don't know, 12 or whatever, 11, something like that.
11. So yeah,
right.
11, 12. Yeah, that was my first year of tackle. Played flag when I was in 4th grade, and then tackle, and then played, didn't stop. Loved it.
How were your parents with it? Were they encouraging? Was mom worried? Was dad pushing you? How'd that work?
Dad wasn't pushing me. I mean, I was begging him. I played soccer, growing up as a younger than that. So, but I mean, I always watched football, always wanted to play football. So like I was begging them to let me play. I think I was so adamant about it that my mom, who was terrified at all games, at all levels. I mean, even in the NFL, she was terrified. I think she knew how much I wanted to do it. So she wasn't going to try to persuade me not to play.
I started when I was 7 or 8. So I started early with tackle, and then later on sustained some sort of horrible shoulder injury after, I don't know, my 3rd season or something. My shoulder was out of socket for 4 days.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was big time. And so my family, who all hated football, but waxed poetic about soccer, wanted me to go play soccer after because of this horrible injury I had. But then I realized you can go from soccer to football, but you can't go from football to soccer. I was like, I'm not going to run around with those pussies in their glossy shorts. I'm going to hit people. Like, I got a helmet and shoulder pads and thigh pads. Like, the greatest thing you'll ever put on is thigh pads. Not Warren Sapp type, I don't wear thigh pads, but real thigh pads, you can hit them with a baseball bat. You don't even feel it. It's awesome. The shoulder pads, same thing, hit it with a baseball bat. So once you get that shit on, you're not going to the dolphin shorts and the tank top and chasing a ball around.
Once you're in it, and once you're cool with being hit and hitting people, that grind and that give and take, and that there's a lot of, you're willing yourself out there a lot of times, and you're willing your team. And like, once you get that itch and that high from it, there's no chance you're going the other way.
Yeah. Now, to circle back to the thankless line, I don't think line jobs, offensive line, defensive line, at some point in the practice, but you probably, sure, how this goes, Pop Warner, high school and beyond. But at some point, our practices would be, all right, everyone get out there, run a couple laps, like get a little lather going, get some blood circulating. Then it was all just team calisthenics, right? Everyone line it up. We're doing push-ups. We're doing jumping jacks. We're going to do that move where everyone runs in place. The guy goes, and everyone's down on the ground and then back up again, running in place. It's the worst thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of that. And then at some point he goes, all right, skill position guys over here, linemen over there. And the quarterbacks and the running backs and the wideouts, they get to go actually play some version of football.
Yes.
The interior linemen just sign up for more torture. All right, we're going to go over here. We got a tackling sled. Everyone line it up. Like, all it is no football, more torture.
Yep.
At some point, you guys would stop and you got to touch a football.
Yeah, we'd have fun.
You could have fun.
Yes.
You could work on things.
Even when I was in the NFL, I remember, like, I would look at the linemen sometime during practice, and they'd be over there hitting the sled. I mean, always hitting things.
Right.
And I'm like, those dudes, I don't think they know what it's like over on this side. Or maybe they do, and they're envious. But I was like, there's no way I'm signing up for that job. No way.
Yeah. What they don't realize is 7 or 8 of the guys on the offensive side of the ball during practice do something that has nothing to do with football. There's no touching the football. There's, we got this truck tire and we put it on a rope, put it around your waist and see if you can make it around the dirt track. Like it's just physical torture.
Don't even need a football over there.
There's no, the
only need one.
All you need is a football and a fucking stick. Because the guy holds the football out and goes, all right, watch the football. Don't go on the count. Go, hut. And someone lurches for it. All right, everyone take a lap.
Oh, yeah.
The only football you need is the one the coach uses to try to draw you off sides.
Yeah, it's probably flat and super old. Just pointless.
You never score a touchdown. You never touch a football. Practice is just torture. That's all you do.
And you know what? The only time you really ever get noticed is if you mess up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was the long snapper. So no one ever congratulates you on a beautiful snap. It's just bounce one back to the punter and the game's over.
Exactly. So it's a very, 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 very thankless job.
Yeah, but I wonder if it instills something that's important.
I mean, I think there's those guys. A lot of those guys, majority of those guys are unbelievable human beings.
Right.
Like salt to the earth, will do anything for you. All of them usually get married young. They adore their wives. They have kids. They're just happy to, I wouldn't say happy to be there, but they're just really good people.
Well, let's drill down on that.
Okay.
Because I really do think there's something here, which is, when you're an interior lineman, it's like, and an offensive lineman especially, it's like, first things first, no accolades, no write-ups in the newspaper, no carrying off on the shoulders, no banging the head cheerleader. There's none of that. There's none of that. Just grind it out. No, by the way, you ever see when they do the draft, they're like highlight, and they try to highlight the interior lineman. Show the guy just blocking another guy in front of him. There's no touchdowns. There's no one-handed catches. There's no fumble rooski. Maybe on occasion you get a little fumble rooski in there, but their highlight reels don't even look like a highlight reel. And this guy's projected to go number 3 in the draft. The first round. But as a guy who's been in the league for 12 years and been the quarterback and been around the offensive linemen, permanently and around the skilled guys, the guys that ran the 4.3 40s, the guys with the gold chains, the guys who were banging the cheerleaders and were on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
What is the dynamic? Like those guys, like if you said like one of these guys, I'd like to run my business for me or babysit my kids or look after my home when I'm on the road, or like, what is the dynamic between those two, the interior lineman and the skill guy? Not the exceptions, but just the sort of basic thumbnail sketch.
I think you get into a situation where like those linemen know that they're part of a team. They know that their job counts every time. They're not looking for you to, they're not divas. They're just out there. Hey, I got to do my job. I'm here to do my job. Tell me what to do. If I get a pat on the back, sometimes great. Where, the other side is, they are, they're most of the time they're eccentrics. Most of the time they want a lot of attention, and rightfully so, because they've got it their entire life. That's just that's how they've been brought up. And it's more of a me type of thing. And sometimes, you got to baby them a little bit and you've got to coddle them. And where an offensive lineman, like very few of those guys are getting coddled. If you don't they don't do their job. And I also will say this, like the offensive line, not only is it physically demanding, but like they're on every single play. Like most of the times, every single play, they have to block somebody. They have to get it right. Where a receiver, he might just have a route on the backside and he's just running off. So it doesn't matter really what he does.
Right.
It matter. Every single play matters most of the time with the O-line. So most of the time they're very dependable, reliable human beings. And you can count on that, 9 times out of 10, where the other side, you just don't know what you're going to get. Obviously, like you said, there's exceptions to the rules. Obviously, there's some guys that come in that play on the outside and that are, unbelievable, reliable, mature beyond their age. But I would say for the most part, most of the linemen that come in are pretty mature humans. They know teamwork, they know accountability.
Yeah, like if I said to you, hey,
you're not going to get a lineman showing up for meetings late continuously. You might get that out of a skill guy.
Right. So if I said to you, Jay, I got an offensive lineman, he's getting married, and I have a flanker, wide out, halfback. He's getting married on the same day. Whose going to get divorced first?
I would probably. I mean, now we're assuming things about people. But I mean, if you had to make a bet, I would probably say that the lineman's marriage will last a little bit longer.
It's kind of interesting because it does kind of come full circle to what we're kind of talking about, which is responsibility, selflessness, being part of the team versus it's even kind of physical interesting because the interior line, offensive line is all packed in together, and then they tell the wide out, go way the fuck over there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He goes in motion and stands 80 feet away from where everyone else is. It's like symbolically relevant as well. Yeah,
I mean, you're 100% right. Just how it looks on paper, it is very very real to real life as well.
Jay, what? Last question. What can we look forward to with you? Are there things that you're planning, you're thinking about? I mean, you're podcasting. This is a newer endeavor for you, but what do you got your eye on?
There's a company that I'm kind of getting involved with, outsider.com, and kind of a media company. I think we're going to right now we're kind of looking to get into the beer world, creating a beer, selling that, and Outsiders kind of a media company for the masses, kind of for that middle ground of people with common sense. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and then doing this podcast thing and kind of having fun with that, and then obviously the meat subscription business has been great with that so far.
Uncut with Jay Cutler is the name of the podcast, and also the meat subscription service, which has a great name, Cuts, and you can go to cutsbyjayandpat.com. Shoot him a tweet at Jay Has Tweets as well. Jay Cutler, enjoyed it. If you ever want me as a guest on your pod, you just say the word, and we'll do the home and home.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
They buy cars and they test cars. That's all they do. And I've said to him, in this day and age of every car works, everything's got a warranty, everything is safe. Well, was there even a bad car these days? And he went, just the smart car. That's the only bad car.
Other than that, they'll work.
Yeah,
they're all good.
Just
all
the
the
one
same.
that's smart.